Welcome to everyone who is watching this on your Roku app. I have had quite an influx of people that are watching for the first time and watching on Roku since my app was approved on my 40th birthday, funny enough. So, welcome to you. I'm excited to be joining you in your living room and just excited to share with you just all the fun things that we've got planned. Real quick before we go on to the questions, one more thing. My pastor's book, What Life Are You Waiting For? By Pete Heiss is available on Amazon for pre-order. Head over to Trinity Digital Media. My mouth needs to work this time. trinitydigitalmedia.com/whatlifebook, and you can pre-order your copy today. It's a great book. I can't wait to read it myself. I've heard bits and pieces, and I was there for the sermon series on which it's based. So, very cool stuff. So, let's get started with your questions. The first question I have is from Paul Martell on the ChurchTech group. He says, I have a meeting in a few weeks with the senior leadership of my church to make a decision if we continue pursuing live streaming of our services to interact with and reach more people. They are wanting to hear the philosophy of other churches who have the capability to stream and either do or do not stream, and why. Things like, we are afraid we will lose numbers in attendance, people will just stay home and watch, etc. I would like to compile all the numbers into a blog post. All feedback is appreciated. Well, Paul, let me start by saying, if you're afraid you're going to lose people, you have the wrong philosophy altogether. You just do. Because fear of loss will guide you to do things that aren't as productive. So think of it in a sports metaphor kind of way. Think of it like the prevent defense in football. Usually that means we just don't want to lose. We're ahead right now. All we have to do is keep them from scoring and we'll win. Doesn't work as well as just saying, we're taking these guys down. We're going to win by 50 more points. Let's try and get the ball back. You know, that kind of mentality. So I think that the church should have we're taking the ball back and we are not going to lose mentality. Remember what Jesus said when he was talking to Peter. Peter, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. This is something that when I heard it, it just switched my thinking when I realized, wait, Gates aren't an offensive weapon, they're a defensive weapon. We need to be charging the gates of hell. And streaming is one of the ways that we can charge the gates of hell. We can invade countries that have unsympathetic governments, to say the least. We can be the little flies that get through their fences, church after church, spreading the good news where they cannot stop us. And I love that idea. I love us invading people's homes and invading their lives with the good news of Christ. And that's what streaming is about. Now, if your church is a church that wants to tell people they're going to hell, if you want to tell people how bad they are, I don't want you to stream. Please stop. In fact, if you think that it's something that you add on as an afterthought, please don't stream. I don't want you to do that. I want you to put your best effort into it. You could potentially reach more people online streaming than you do live and in person. It's possible. In fact, my church is right on the cusp of doing just that. And it changes how we view things. Now, people that go to our church don't stay home just to watch the stream, because it's a superior experience to be there in person, to hear the music the way that it's intended with better sound, to have an additional camera view, your eyes, in addition to what's on the screen. Now, but it does help people who have limitations. So if you're sick, instead of going to church and infecting other people with your sickness, you can watch online. If you're on vacation, instead of not going to church at all, you can watch online. You see how it's a tool. Streaming can also bring families together, especially those in the military. They they feel like they're separated from their loved ones as it is. So what if, in addition to just Skyping with their loved ones, what if they go to church with their loved ones? They watch the same message, and they can interact with people in the same way. That's something that we didn't even anticipate with live streaming in our church, and it has made a world of difference. So I guess those are all the reasons why I would stream. And if you are too concerned about keeping people in, that's a bad reason. That's a bad reason to quit streaming, because you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. So let's move on to the next question. Gresham Hill asks, church apps? Any recommendation under $1,000 a year? Now, while I don't know how much these recommendations are, I do know that they're both good companies. So, first off, Matt McKee over at Roar, ROAR, he makes some great church apps, so I'd look into him. I've interacted with him. I actually interviewed him for my second book, Tweeting Church, and he's just a great guy. With that said, I had nothing to do with the choice of this company for my church, because we're large enough that I don't touch everything anymore. It used to be the case that if it went on a screen, I touched it. Well, now we're specialized enough that I didn't have to do that, so I don't know them personally, but our app is great, so I'm going to recommend Subsplash. Subsplash. They have something to do with our app as well, and I think I would say, if you're interested in church apps, I think I would download a bunch. Ours is the Quest Community Church app, and it's available for Android and iPhone, which I think is definitely the way you need to go. Make sure it's not just iOS or just Android, because you're eliminating a huge swath of your congregation if you make that mistake. There was some discussion about web apps. Nothing wrong with web apps, but I think there's a perception problem. I recognize that it's not the case that you're just being cheap and making your website mobile responsive to keep from paying to make a web app, to keep from paying to make an app, a native app, but it can sometimes feel like that. So keep that in mind as you're making your decision, and I'd absolutely make your website mobile responsive in the process if you can, if you haven't already. Peter Stevenson asks, what is some good software for making a contact list of church servants? I'm looking for cool features, easy to use, and maybe apps available. I like www.churchdb.org so far, just looking for any other suggestions. Well, we use Planning Center and Arena. Arena is more of a whole church database. Planning Center is more for production. So those are the two that we use right now. We have used Fellowship One in the past and then moved from it for reasons that I don't really know, because, as I say, we're a big enough church that I don't have to touch everything. So those are some things that I would absolutely look into. Fellowship One, Arena, and Planning Center online.com, I believe it is. So go for those. Carrie Green asks, what do you think about this new medium of internet radio, and how does it impact the strategies you're using for your business? This is one of those questions where I know he used new in quotation marks because he knows that it's not new. It's just that, oh, all of a sudden people who've forgotten about it remembered. And so now they're writing all these news stories. Podcasting is back. There's internet radio now. Yeah, there always was. It never dipped down. It was always up and to the right. So I know he's being facetious. But I do think that now is the time for your church to podcast. If you haven't done it already, podcasting, streaming, internet video, video podcasting, new media in general is taking over. When I launched my Roku app on my birthday, by the way, that if you want to just add that to your Roku, let's say you've got a Roku, you can add it very easily just by going to trinitydigitalmedia.com/Roku, and that will just ask you if you want to add it, and you can say yes, and bam, it'll show up on your Roku, assuming that you're logged into your account on that computer. Right now I'm in the news section. So when I launched that app, my viewership literally doubled. How does that feel to you? I mean, think about it this way. You could have people that are watching from all over the country. I know I've seen dots on my map from Hawaii, Texas, Wisconsin, Illinois, New York State, all over, places I haven't even been. And they're watching my face interact about technology. How much more could your church do? So I just think the time's right. You know, we've got set-top boxes that allow us to watch them on our TVs. We've got smartphones that allow us to watch them anywhere we go. It's just the perfect opportunity. You don't have to be on network television anymore. In fact, I'm kind of wondering why you would be. Because you have so many more options with these new media choices. Okay. TSDZ or DSZT on churchmedia.net asks, help with streaming. I'm looking into live streaming for our church and need help in picking out a camera and which live streaming service to use that is not too expensive. I've been recording our services on an old Canon disc camcorder and posting it on YouTube. And what I'm looking to do is both live streaming and recording of our services. I prefer PC and would like to mount one remote controlled camera at the back of the sanctuary with a zoom lens. It doesn't have to move. Our sanctuary is not that big. And be able to view the service on my computer while streaming and recording. So first off, I asked him about budget, and I haven't heard back about that. But Sony makes some pan tilt zooms that are all in one units that I've used before. They're high def. They're good pieces that you could control remotely from the back, and you could get that video wherever you need it, capture it in through a capture card, etc. So that's probably where I would start. I wouldn't buy anything standard definition at this point. There just really isn't any point. Even if you're recording and streaming at standard def, that doesn't mean you're not going to go high def and soon. So don't make the mistake of going, oh, well, this is $100 cheaper. No, spend the $100, get the better camera now. You won't regret it. So with that said, what I'm doing right now is I'm going through Wirecast, which is for their entry-level solution, a $500 piece of software. You can do Adobe Flash Media Live Encoder. You can. It's very limited. It'll just take what comes into it and spit it back out onto your stream. Now, as I've mentioned earlier, I use ChurchStreaming.tv. Again, get your free trial at trinitydigitalmedia.com/churchstreaming. And I love them. You can use YouTube, but YouTube's live streaming is more designed for the once a year corporate meeting as opposed to the every week at the same time live stream, which is what a church service is. So I don't know what you mean by not too expensive, but churchstreaming.tv is $100 a month for churches less than 2,000 people. So that's most churches. And they're a flat rate. You're not going to get a surprise at the end of the month with a $300 bill because you got real popular all of a sudden. That's just not going to happen. So I recommend them highly. So probably what you're going to want to do is get either an HDMI camera if you're very close to where the camera's going to be. You might want to change that into SDI if you're farther away, because that's going to give you a much more robust signal. There are adapters you could get from Blackmagic, for example, that do that, and you'll be able to take that and capture that into your computer with a capture card, again from Blackmagic, or there are a few others. So hope that helps you. Get back to me on the budget, because you could do it as cheaply as putting a webcam on an inexpensive pan tilt. You won't like the results, but you could do that. I would recommend it, but it is possible. So just keep that in mind. Okay, Alleyman on churchmedia.net. Projector rolling lines and signal from cameras. Hello friends, I was recently hired as a media and tech director at New Hope Church in Kodiak, Tennessee. I used to be the Lee Greenwood Theater. Along with this came a huge amount of tech that was top of the line when the theater was built, but is getting some age on it. We have 3 JVC Pro SD DV cameras that are fed into a Sony Anycast. 2 of the signals are being sent via S-Video, one composite. Its S-Video plugin is broken. The major problem right now is the feed going to switch the cables to Cat6. The major problem right now is the feed from the camera has a thick black ghosting lines running through it. There we go. I know it's some sort of interference. I'm going to switch the cables to Cat6. It has S-Video cables right now. I would guess they're about 100 feet in each. Do you think the Cat6 will fix the problem? Are there filters I could use to fix the situation? Any ideas or suggestions would be greatly appreciated. Okay, Chris, first thing, you've got potentially 3 problems. A ground loop, dirty power, or an inducted magnetic field where the video cables are running in parallel to the power cables for more than an inch or so. Just they're very close and they're running right along together, maybe in the same conduit, which is bad. So we've got to figure out which that is. first thing I would do is I would take a camera and run a known good cable directly to the projector. If you have battery on that camera, all the better. Run it off battery, run it to the projector, see if there's no hum. By the way, that's a hum bar that you're seeing. A ghosted thing goes like this, like a 60 cycle hum. So that's the first thing I would do. If the problem has gone away, plug the camera back into power. See if the problem returns. Still no problem? Then what you need to do is start adding things until you see where the problem shows up and attack there. If you have a ground loop, one thing you could do for testing purposes only, do not leave this permanently. It will potentially ruin your equipment if you do. But for testing purposes only, those 3-prong to 2-prong adapters, ground lift adapters, try plugging those into any 3-prong devices you have and see if the problem goes away. If it goes away, you've got a ground loop, call an electrician. He can help you with that. If it does not go away, it could be that you have dirty power and you need to filter that power. There are filters that filter that. Perhaps the hardest thing to track down would be if you're getting a electromagnetic interference inducted from power lines running right beside the video signal. But if you run, at least temporarily, since you're on composite, this should be fairly easy to do. Get a spool of RG6 from Home Depot or Lowe's or Menards or wherever you have, and run new cables that you know are not close to power. If they have to cross power, do it at a 90-degree angle so that there's a bare minimum interaction between them, and try and separate them as much as possible. If you do that and you still have the hum bar, then it's probably dirty power. So I would attack it like that and go from there. Let us know how it works. Mr. Terry on churchmedia.net asks, condenser mic for podcast voice recording. Hi guys. So just a quick question for you. I'm planning on starting regular podcasts and video commentaries for our church. I'm in favor of that, as you can hear from earlier. But now we don't have a proper studio for those things. So I have to record these things in a room where noise from the PC fan, keyboard, and mouse, as well as sound from people outside the room might occur. I really want to go with the condenser mic like the AT2035 or the Rode NT2A together with an external sound card, but I'm afraid mics like this will pick up too much noise. Is there anyone here who has experience with something like this, or can you recommend any other high quality microphones? I recommend across the board for podcasting ATR 2100 USB microphone. All the podcasting consultants that I listen to on a regular basis, and I do listen to a couple of them on a regular basis, recommend this microphone. It's around $40, $40 to $80 depending on where you go, but on Amazon you can get it for $45, so it's not hard to find in the $40 range. You don't have to use an external sound card. You could just plug it in USB and you won't get the hum that's normally associated with an internal sound card. So that solves your problem. It's a dynamic mic, so it's not going to pick up the quiet little sounds that some other microphones would pick up. So I would not recommend a condenser microphone. If you have a great studio that has a lot of sound insulation and all, then by all means go with a condenser microphone. But in your case, no. You will you'll be able to hear everything with that condenser microphone. They're super sensitive, and that's a plus, but they're super sensitive, and that's a minus in your case. So don't go with it. Okay, finally, Elbert Westcott asked me on Twitter, using my Twitter handle at Paul Allen Cliff, PaulaLanclif. He asked me, "Hey Paul," actually he said at Paul Allen Cliff, "just beginning video for my church. Thank you for understandable instructions. Is one podcast more focused on video than another?" Yes, absolutely. Technobabble, my Thursday show, which of course records live Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. UTC on ChurchTechcast.com. That show is video and graphic design, so it's visual stuff. Monday's show is all about the internet. That's Tech Help for Churches. Tuesday's show is about creativity. Wednesday's show is about pursuing your dream. And of course, today is Friday. And Friday is all about questions and answers. So there's some video stuff on today's show, absolutely. And occasionally there's some on some of the other shows. But if you have limited time, I would just subscribe to Technobabble. Go to trinitydigitalmedia.com/subscribe, and that'll take you to the list of all the shows, and you can just subscribe to the appropriate one, or subscribe on YouTube, which is at the bottom of that list as well. Okay, I hope that helps everyone. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat, so I will go on from here. And let me tell you, until next week, I really hope you'll go out and change eternity. This is Paul Allen Clifford with TrinityDigitalMedia.com.